Hey everybody, it's Mike. I am so excited because for me, as a sports junkie, this is one of the best times of year. NCAA tournament starts this week. NBA in full steam. Now my Sixers not so much, but still a great time of year. But the part of this year that gets me most excited is for the start of Major League Baseball. My Phillies. I am so ready for the season to start. But what on earth does any of that have to do with leadership? What on earth does any of that have to do with HR? When I think of March, when I think of April, when I think of summer, I think of baseball. And what that makes me think of, as the father of two pitchers, is a strike zone. And what I want to talk to you about today is something that people refer to as the strike zone approach to touching inside of the workplace. So let's talk about not losing our humanity. Let's talk about being able to lead and being able to be empathetic. And yeah, sometimes recognizing that being tactile, that a touch can actually, while of course there is some risk associated with it, can actually make somebody's world an awful lot better. Now, obviously, we don't touch breasts, we don't touch rear ends, we don't touch genitals. I cannot conceive of a reason why anybody would ever need to touch somebody's face with whom they work. But folks, there are people do trainings inside of organizations, harassment prevention trainings, workplace culture trainings, people who counsel organizations and leaders who abide by something called the strike zone approach to touching. Oh, how I love that, he says, dripping with sarcasm. What's the strike zone approach? It's that you can never touch somebody you work with between the shoulders and the knees. Well, first of all, clearly an American League strike zone, but whatever. You can never touch somebody you work with between the shoulders and the knees. Never. And there are people who do talks. There are people who lead sessions. There are people who counsel organizations who think this is a good idea. I got a couple of questions for the strike zone people. Question number one, how on earth are you going to shake somebody else's hand? That's probably not going to work for most people. Question number two, I assume you're saying by implication that it is just fine, and in fact you have no problem when I come up and I rub your feet and or your calves at work, because there is nothing creepy at all about that. The real problem I have with the strike zone approach, the real problem. How far from being an actual human is this? My mother-in-law, my wife Jamie's mom, died about 22 years ago. Now, I am going to tell you a story, the background information for which is important for the application of that story. And the background information that you need to know is about my wife Jamie and me. Jamie, tough as nails. Strongest person I know. Jamie, with very limited exceptions, never, ever, 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 I mean, ever, 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 ever cries. Jamie, again, with pretty limited exceptions. She's not sappy, she's not mushy, she's not touchy. Because of all of these things, I tell her all the time that she's dead inside. Yeah, I'm super fun to live with. Because you gotta understand, I'm the polar opposite. I'm super touchy. I'm super sappy and mushy. And I cry at everything, particularly since I've had daughters. I see something with a father and a daughter on TV, I'm that little puddle you see in the corner. Let me give you an example. I'm Jewish. Jamie also is Jewish. We're raising our daughters to be Jewish. May 21st of 2016, our older daughter Mia had her bat mitzvah. Now, one of the things we wanted to do for Mia for her bat mitzvah was create this video montage thing, right? We go back through 13 years of pictures. We break them into sections. We got sports, we got family, we got friends, we got vacation. We back music up to each section that's appropriate for that section. Mia's always been obsessed with sports. We ripped off ESPN 30 for 30. We created 13 for 13 for Mia. And it was super cool. And it was super fun. But there was one section of the video, the music, for which we really struggled. And that was the section that was all about Mia and Maddie together. All about the girls as sisters. All about the sisters in a very meaningful way as best friends, which for me is only about 1 billion times more important than any other section of the video. This section has to be perfect, which means, of course, the music has to be perfect. The song can't be obvious, it can't be simple, it can't be trite. There's a song called Sisters, like a little too on the nose, right? So we're trying to come up with a song for Mia's video. Now, I am very much a music person. Jamie, not as much a music person. That is not to say she doesn't like music. She likes music very much. But she doesn't listen to the words. And that drives me bananas. Let me give you an example. 23 years ago, before Jamie and I got married, we didn't have a song, right? We didn't have that moment where our eyes met across a crowded cafeteria and Dreamweaver was playing in the background. We didn't have that moment. So while we're trying to come up with a song for our wedding, and after my votes for Let's Get It On and You Sexy Thing were unceremoniously voted down 1-0, because apparently that's not a time to be funny, we're trying to come up with a song for our wedding, and we were driving out to a mall outside of Philadelphia. It's called the King of Prussia Mall. It's the second worst place on planet Earth. And as we're driving out to the King of Prussia Mall, we were listening to a band called Cowboy Mouth. Song comes on, Jamie hears the song, and I hear this from the passenger seat. There it is. That's our wedding song. I looked at my then fiance and said, the song we're listening to right now, that's the one you want to be our wedding song? Yeah, don't you think it'd be great? Okay. Jay, do you know what that song is called? No, you know I don't listen to the words. Right. That song is called How Do You Tell Someone You Don't Love Them? So it is against this backdrop that we were trying to come up with the song for Mia's video. And at the time I was doing a bunch of trainings for a health system in northern New Jersey. And I'm on my way to give a talk and I get a text from Jamie, just heard a song, I think it'll be perfect for Mia's video. What is this going to be? And she sent it to me. And it was a song called Count on Me by Bruno Mars. Now, at the time, I knew the song, and from a tempo standpoint, it was great, but I did not know the words, and I suspect you will agree with me when I suggest that it's probably not a bad idea that I take a peek at these lyrics before we put the song in the video. Now, what I'm about to say, I think makes me no different than any parent I've ever met, and I say it with no hyperbole, I say it with no exaggeration, I take no credit for it at all. I am, on a day-to-day basis, completely and totally in awe of my daughters. They're better people than I am. I want to be like them. And one of the reasons I've always been so in awe, so impressed with my older daughter is what a remarkably good friend she has been. And I remember being a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old boy. And I remember thinking day to day, not always a picnic. Being a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girl, at least having experienced it from the outside, well, it's got some pretty special challenges. And she has always been so true, and she has always been so present, and she has always been so damn loyal. Like to a fault. To the people that matter most. And Jamie sends me Count on Me, and I pull up the lyrics, and at that moment, that song for me is all about showing up. It's all about being there for the people who matter most, particularly the little annoying one that lives across the hall, who has idolized every single thing you have ever done for her entire life, has chosen to wear the number on her back of her uniform that you have worn. It's perfect. And it's in the video. And about 45 seconds after that original text, I got another one from Jamie, and it said, "Stop crying, you wuss." She's dead inside. Jamie's mom passed. She had already lost her dad. She took a couple weeks off from work, took care of herself, took care of her siblings. After she took those couple of weeks off from work, she came back into work, and folks, every single person with whom she worked, including her bosses, big hug. And she really appreciated it. I remember her coming home telling me those were the hugs I didn't even think I needed. But it turns out I did. There are going to be people you work with, and I'll suggest to you as leaders, yes, even people who report to you, who go through tough times, who go through challenging circumstances, who have tragedies. You don't have to. But unless this person's giving you reason to think otherwise, of course it's okay to give somebody a hug, a reassuring touch on the shoulder. Look, the hug hello every time you see somebody? No thanks. But this strike zone approach is very much check your humanity at the door. And I'm guessing that many of you are like me and don't ever want to be in a place where we have to check that humanity at the door. Hope springs eternal. World Series bound. That said, please ignore the strike zone approach. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great week. Hope to see you all soon.